Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and certified lifestyle coach. And we got three special guests in the house. And I want you to kind of think of our nonprofit community. How can we get our nonprofits thriving? As Glenda, one of our guests, has always said, your community is your nonprofits. And if you can't get your nonprofits going in the right direction, hitting on all cylinders, we're losing that impact. So first, Glenda, tell our viewers, who you are, what you do, and then we'll go to Melanie and then to Brian, and then we'll kind of get started with what we want to share with our viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pete. It's great to be here with you again this morning on your live podcast. I am Glenda Hicks, and I am a certified and licensed consultant in governance for nonprofit organizations. So I bring to the organizations best practices for their boards of directors, and with their executive director, I assist them in coaching and leadership, as well as the staff. And from an operational standpoint, helping them to get the appropriate policies, procedures, and practices in place so they can build a sustainable foundation for their organization. And as you said, to help them thrive so that our communities thrive from the services they provide through fulfilling their mission. And that's what I've done for the past several decades in different capacities, and just continue to do that. I'm very passionate about assisting the nonprofit sector.
Ooh, and thank you for that. It's so important. Melanie Lambert. I haven't met Melanie, but I am now. So Melanie, please share how you impact the nonprofit community.
Yes, I'm happy to. Thank you, Pete, so much for this opportunity. My name is Melanie Lambert. I am Managing Director of Just Right Grants, and we are a grant writing consulting firm that works with nonprofits across the country to help them save time, spend less, and raise more, ultimately. Grant writing can really kind of be this different language for nonprofits. It can be intimidating if you don't have experience with that. I spent my career in nonprofits here in the Metro Atlanta area, mostly with small to mid-sized nonprofits, and really recognized that there's a gap there. Oftentimes, nonprofits are more reactive to grant opportunities, which can be successful, but when you have the opportunity to really be proactive and build a strong foundation for those grants, you see a lot more success. So that's where we come in. We do the entire grant writing process. We identify, help cultivate, submit grants, and then really help you build a grant writing fundraising strategy for your nonprofit. So as I said, it can work if you're reactive, but what I try to do is essentially try to demystify the grant writing process for nonprofits, because there is a lot of money out there, and it's like the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. But you need to do it effectively so that the time that you're investing, I've never met a nonprofit that had a lot of excess time or money. So the time that you're investing in that has value. So that's where we come in. And I'm really passionate about, helping nonprofits kind of get past that self-funded stage and move into really robust fundraising strategies that can take their organization to the next level and ultimately better serve their clients.
That is beautiful. As you were sharing that, I'm such a fan of, you can do it yourself. Everybody does it. It's going to take you longer. You're going to make mistakes, and you're not going to get there because, when you go into the nonprofit, everybody is passionate about their nonprofit. However, there's a lot of money out there, and if you can't figure out how you can access those funds, your nonprofit is going to stand still. So you have to have that valuable skill, and hiring somebody that lives it, breathes it, and just it knows the whole system is so important. So thank you, Melanie, for that. Brian Pruett, you're the last, and then we'll get into our total podcast of what we want to do to share with our viewers. So Brian, please share how you impact the nonprofit community.
Well, Pete, again, thanks for having us on this morning. It's a great opportunity. So my name is Brian Pruett. I'm the co-founder and operator of Bees Charitable Pursuits and Resources. And I've got 30 years experience of sales, marketing, fundraising, and sports. And so what I found, just like Glenda and Melanie, I found a need to come in and do a little gap between the different kind of fundraising events. Everybody does a gala, everybody does golf tournaments. Well, there's all kinds of different ways to bring money in, bring the community together, have fun doing it while raising money for a great cause. So 4 years ago, I started doing a charity trivia night where I rotate charities around Northwest Georgia. When I started this business, most people in the smaller nonprofits, which is the ones that I choose to work with, have said, you know what, I don't know how to go get sponsorships. I also saw a need where they don't really know how to do any marketing for their nonprofits or do it well as networking, because most of them work full-time jobs trying to do that, but they also need to be able to get out and establish those relationships so people can learn about what they do and then donate if it's passionate with what their causes are. So I kind of fill in those gaps, and I really enjoy working with these nonprofits, hearing the stories of why these smaller nonprofits have started, and bringing awareness to the community while at the same time having fun and raising money. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
That is beautiful. Yeah, you hit on some really important the sponsorships. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was hired by a nonprofit, and that was his main focus. Because if you can't get those people that believe in your journey, you're not going to get the reach, and you're not going to make the impact you can. So thank you for that, Brian. So I want to talk about the workshop that's coming up. So tell me, as I hear all three of you talk, it's amazing the synergy of how this was communicated to our viewers. So Glenda, tell me, like, when you're putting a concept like this together in a workshop like this, what kind of, who do you want to attend this type of workshop? And tell us a little bit about the workshop, and then we'll go to Melanie and Brian after that.
Absolutely. Well, we came together because we had a relationship with each other. Brian actually brought Melanie and I together, and we had wanted to put together something of this type for a while, and now just seemed the right time for everything to come together. With our particular disciplines and skill sets, they meld well together, because I'm coming at the workshop from the perspective of how do we ensure the board understands their roles and responsibilities in serving on the board, and how do they align and partner with the executive director to be the key leaders of the organization. And when these two understand how to fulfill their roles and how to support each other and how to lead the organization, then they're able to step into fundraising and grant writing and marketing and branding their organization effectively, so that they get the results they need in order to be impactful. But if you have a board or an executive director who's not supported by the board in the way that he or she needs it, then you have a floundering organization many times, and you definitely have one that's not securing the dollars they need. They're not aware of the grant opportunities that are out there. They're not pulling their weight effectively, and they're not promoting who they are and what they do and the successes they have. So it just made a lot of sense for the three of us to come together and produce a workshop for all sized organizations. We've mentioned multiple times the small and medium size, because they struggle a lot and they need this type of assistance at an affordable price, which was important to us. But also, each organization I've worked with, whether they were large or small, local, national, or international, they had similar pain points, similar challenges. And that similarity lies in the things that the three of us do. So it just made a lot of sense for us to collaborate and bring this type of opportunity to the community. So the short answer is everybody should be there. Everyone's welcome. There's something that fits everyone's budget in terms of their own size of organization, but it makes it very practical for them to walk away with tangible things they can put in place immediately.
That is so good. You know, we have AI. I was thinking as you were talking there, a lot of people are like, I can do this. I can ask AI this. I can ask AI that. Being in person and being around people and being able to engage with people, what do you think when it comes to a live event? What would our viewers gain by being there in person, meeting people that you could share with us? And then we'll go to Melanie after that.
There's so much to be said for in-person contact. We
Mhm.
lost a lot of that during COVID, and we saw how that played out in terms of people being isolated. We did do a lot of things individually and through the internet, but there was a longing and a yearning for us to get back together. That's how we're designed as humans. So first and foremost, just being in the midst of physical people, it does positive things for us. But being able to have more effective breakout sessions or Q&A sessions. Technology is phenomenal. We're using it right now. We greatly appreciate it, and it serves us well. But there's just something about being in the physical presence and being able to get up close and personal and ask people questions and hear from your peers and have little conversations that you just can't have virtually unless you're placed in a breakout room. And sometimes that's not in the agenda, and yet you want to chat with someone. And so it's just a different dynamic, and it's just very powerful to come together physically.
It's so good. Melanie, when I think of grant writing, I think of a treasure chest of opportunity, and you have a key and you got to open it up. And if you don't have the key, it stays in the chest. So tell our viewers, why is it important to understand the complicated nature of really getting those resources for their organization?
Well, I think you're very right. There is the sort of this mythical key, right? For how do we unlock this door and get into this world of grant writing? And excuse me, I wish that I could tell you what that key is universally. Mm-hmm. So, and I think, one of the things we're going to talk about in this workshop is what is that key for your organization, right? How do you, and this is where we pull in what Glenda is going to present and really complements what Brian is going to present as well with storytelling and into grant writing. And it is also, like you shared and Glenda shared so eloquently, it's all just cohesive. Mm-hmm. That, to be able to figure out what that key is for your organization and the funder. Every funder has different requirements, different interests, different giving histories, what they want to accomplish philanthropically. And so I had a mentor of mine years ago share with me something that I carry with me as a grant writer that I'll talk about in our workshop and a little bit here. But, to consider grant writing and fundraising in general is sort of a mutual problem, right? The nonprofit has a problem. They need money, right? Here's what we want to accomplish. And we can't really do that yet because we don't have the funding that we need. The grantor or the foundation has the money, but their problem is they aren't physically doing it, right? So you as the nonprofit are helping to solve their philanthropic problem by saying, yes, you want to contribute, you want to make a difference in the world, we can help you do that. And then the funder is solving the problem for the nonprofit by providing the money. So when you look at it from that problem solving perspective and you figure out how do we get those two entities together uniquely, us as the nonprofit and the funder's particular interest in what they want to accomplish, that's your key. And that takes a lot of work. And I think, again, as I shared, the demystifying of grant writing, there is sort of this thought process that, well, I'm a nonprofit and I exist and I've got a mission statement, I'm ready for grants. And that's just typically not the case. There's a lot of background work that goes into it. There's a lot of self-discovery. Who are we? What do we do? What do we want to accomplish? What's the world look like to us when we've solved our problem? Mm-hmm. And then there's sort of that aspect of it that can be a speed bump for a lot of nonprofits in the financial side of things, right? Are you collecting the data you need? Do you have the financial documents that you need? And so all of that takes time. And as you're working through those processes, you sort of narrow the funnel of or the net that you're casting, right? There's all these funders out there and all this money out there, but you're not going to qualify for all of it. All those funders aren't the right funding partners for you. So as you go through these steps of self-discovery and building the foundation for success, which is part of my presentation at the workshop, then you will start to narrow that field and find those funders for whom you can solve their philanthropic problem of wanting to give their money to accomplish their goals in your community or, however, wherever you serve. So I hope that answers your question. I feel like that was pretty long-winded, but
No, that's very good to share that with our viewers. I see the world changing very rapidly. And, if we're not changing and trying to get a little bit ahead of it, we'll never get ahead of it because technology is moving fast. What do you think when it comes to technology and grant writing? How are those two similar? And are we getting to a point where people can, get to funds easier with technology that makes a difference in how we can access those funds to grow our community and our nonprofit?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, right? Because grant writing is one of those things that can easily become a back burner project in a nonprofit office that is already overwhelmed, or for a development officer who has a lot on their plate already. It can really easily be pushed to the back burner. So it's very appealing to think, hey, I can run this through ChatGPT, or I can, use some sort of AI platform to do this. AI absolutely is I think, an almost invaluable tool for nonprofits, particularly ones that are in that situation where you're a development officer and that means 10 different things every day of the week, right? Mm-hmm. But there's still, at least today in 2026, still is value in that human element, mm-hmm. right? At the end of the day, it's a human being that is reviewing your grant application, yep. and that is talking about it in a boardroom with other human beings, and that is ultimately deciding who's getting that check. So an AI platform can absolutely help ensure that you know what you've read in an RFP, or request for proposals. Help me understand this. Mm-hmm. It can help you with word counts and other, not so fun elements of grant applications and cases. It can help you, hey, I've written this 3 times and this doesn't feel right to me. Help me, recraft this message. But to fully engage a human being in a complete grant application, I think today at least still requires that human aspect. Sure. We use AI as an assistant for some grant research elements. It speeds up the process, right? I'm able to more engage with the human side of our work, yes. when the technology can step in the appropriate places. So I caution nonprofits to try to stay away from having ChatGPT be your primary grant writer. Yeah. Look at AI as an assistant only. Excuse me. Let it complement your work as the human being and speed up the processes for you, but don't rely on it as, a cut and paste kind of process, because it's going to read sort of like appliance instruction manuals, and it's not going to win for you. And so then you're investing that time in something that's not going to give you any sort of return.
I love
or
that.
Minimal return. I don't want to say it's impossible to get a grant that you wrote on ChatGPT. I'm sure it's not, but it's not going to have that standout factor that you really want, because grants are so competitive. Yes. The last numbers that I saw, 1.5 million nonprofits in the U.S. and about 100,000 private foundations and corporations. So if you do that math and you're applying for grants, you're already up against some competition. So you want your application to stand out. You don't want it to look like everyone else who's using the same AI platforms, because then it's, you're spinning your wheels.
Totally. I ask people on my podcast all the time is, how they're using AI. So I hear various answers, and I'll always share HI will always beat AI, because nothing is more creative than who we are, what we do, thinking ahead, all the different things. But the heavy lifting can help you. You can do 80%, but you still have to have you there as that 20% to really make that difference. Because you're right, there's a lot out there and there's a lot of competition. And if you think you're going to have a tool like AI is going to get you the resources you need, you're not looking at it properly. So thank you, Melanie, on that. So Brian, I have a Rotary, and our major fundraiser is once a year, and it's weather does have a factor, but this is what it rained. Half of it rained out last year, but we had sponsors. We had secured sponsors way ahead of time. So we had the funds, although the weather didn't give us the best possible return for our fundraiser. If we didn't have sponsors, we would have been in bad shape, because it funds all our other nonprofits. So share with our viewers, like, when it comes to the importance of your sponsors and reaching out and being able to access people that want to be behind things that they believe in, what's important for us to understand in the area of sponsors?
So I'm a big sports fan, Pete. So I always try to teach people, what's the first thing coaches do with their players when things start going bad for those players? They take them back to the fundamentals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing in fundraising. You teach them the small, simple things, the fundamentals of fundraising, and part of that is the sponsorship. So I think the most important thing that people need to understand and realize is it's how you come across with your story and your ask. You don't want to go across and just say, hey, I need to raise $30,000 to help feed the homeless. Well, that doesn't tell them anything. There's plenty of organizations out there doing that. I always teach people that you got to get them, tug at their hearts, make it personal, write a letter, put them in the story. Tell your story, then put that person in the story. Sitting there watching TV this weekend, and one of the two of the commercials that came on are the St. Jude's and then that animal shelter. And what they're doing, they're showing the kids, they're showing the animals, right? Do the same thing, even if it's a written letter. You tug at the person's heart, and then you then explain not only why you're doing it, but then I think a big thing to understand too is and acknowledge is, even after the event is over and you've gotten those funds, the world today has gotten away from thank you. Send a thank you and then share what that money is used for. I'll give you a great example. 4 years ago, the first night I did trivia, I did she's not going to care that I say this, Footprints on the Heart's a small nonprofit in Cartersville. She works with families in the hospitals in Northwest Georgia who have just lost the babies from infant up to 2 years old. Right. Well, I handed her $1,000 check from that night. To me, I didn't think that was a big deal because I wanted it to be more, because that hit home. My mom's lost family, babies. I've had good friends lose babies. And her comment to me was, you just bought 5 caskets for me for the year. Now that's powerful, right? So if you get and understand and tell these sponsors what your money is actually going to, you're going to get more people on board with what your vision is.
Ooh, that is so good. Do you feel that as the world's changing, is there anything in the world of sponsorships and marketing of the nonprofits that viewers need to know and be aware of? Because you live and breathe in the space, and most of our nonprofits don't live and breathe what you are doing. What could you share that you're going to be able to bring to light at the workshop that would be real important for people to know?
I think the big thing is, even though we're in a society where, to me, it's changed to a me society, even though we want people to always be giving and things of that nature, and while people do come across and feel, once they hear your vision, they want to do this, they're going to want to know what's in it for them. What kind of return can you give them? What exposure can you give them? So you've got to be able, as a nonprofit, think of creative ways to show them, put their logos on things, whatever the case is. Be very creative in giving them that return.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add something there, Pete?
Absolutely, Melanie.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that you're going to see if you're able to join us for the workshop is kind of this underlying tenet of relationships. And I think, going back kind of what Glenda said at the beginning, where COVID kind of created this situation where we were kind of craving each other's company. We were also distant from each other. The technology was great, but we didn't have that human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, it's easy and I'll speak to grant writing, and I think, Brian and Glenda can speak to this too, but it's easy to sit at your computer, use an AI tool, put together a grant, put it in an email, hit send, and keep your fingers crossed. And as I said, while that can be successful, it's typically not. What's going to be with all of those nonprofits that, were impacted by changes in administration and may have lost federal funding, it's kind of a flip, right? Private and corporate foundations is where that relationship is so critical. And that's really universal across the fundraising world, all aspects of fundraising, whether you're doing annual campaigns, major gifts, grant writing, capital campaigns. It's about the relationship, right? You never sit down in a coffee with somebody and say, hey, this is my nonprofit and we need $1 million. You would take that person to coffee, build a relationship, build a friendship, find out what they want to accomplish with their philanthropic dollars or what they're interested in, get them to volunteer, get them to come and see what you're doing in real life. And so when but the challenge there is it takes more time, right? It's a lot more across a longer period. And so you've got to get your board invested in that. From Glenda's side of things, you've got to be able to say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be an overnight, we're not going to see a spike in this overnight. This is going to take time and investment. You've got to have your story. As Brian, you can't sit down in front of the donor and not know what you're talking about. You've got to have that solidified. So I think that's going to be a universal tenet that you're going to hear throughout our workshop of how important that is to connect on a human level with the people that you're engaging with, and that with that invested time, you will see a return on that in the grants and the gifts and the donations that you receive, but then also over the longer term. You're not starting over from scratch every year at zero, right? Hey, I can go back to Pete. We've got this relationship. He's invested in what we're doing. We have a gap this year. I'm going to go talk to our friend Pete and see if he can help us. And it's not just, hey, a blank page every year. You're building and building and building every year over a longer time for longer success and financial stability.
Well,
and Pete, I'm going to jump in here and build on Brian and his acknowledgement of sponsors, and just take a liberty, if I might, to just mention our sponsors who have helped us to produce this event so that we can make it affordable for the attendees. And that's Concha Financial, A2 Concrete Contractors, Star Printers and Publishers, and Say Pictures You Love, Al Simply Design, and Pritchard Injury Firm. So we're doing our part as well to promote our sponsors and let folks know that this isn't an individual effort. This is a collaboration, not just between the three of us, but also with our 6 sponsors who are bringing this to us, because we really, as both Brian and Melanie have said, want to bring those basics and those foundational principles to the organizations that are tried and true, no matter how big they become or what circumstance they're in or what board they have, who's leading the organization, what the founder is doing, and how they're trying to, get that partnership going both internally with their board and staff who see the vision, but also externally with those who are going to support them either financially or through helping to spread the word of who they are and what they do in their branding. So wanted to take that opportunity as well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. And I'll let them know here we go. Right. So let me try there we go. QR code up there. So, okay, here we go. So if you look to the, let me think, that would be to the left of my head. Scan that QR code, and that's where you can register for the event. And I, just to kind of add what you just shared, Glenda, everything is a collaboration. Everything is together we're better. Coming to an event, being able to get 3 experts who are bringing value to our nonprofit community, so you can take home to your nonprofit all the things you need, because if you know the keys to things, how to move forward, you meet people at the workshop, that you develop that relationship. My brother's a business development director, and then when he retired, he was mostly doing things online. I mean, he was a pharmaceutical recruiter, but what he said to me is, when you're having lunches, when you're developing those relationships, it's a long-term thing. It's like, if you expect to just jump in there and grab, it's transactional, and that never works. And we were kidding about a friend of ours who jumped into it after he retired, and he didn't have that relationship, intact. It was more like his career was more aggressive than it was, quick. When people say, we were at home at our high school reunion, and the person was speaking, and people said, "Hold on to your wallets." It's like, and so people can think that, because what people say about you matters. And so as you approach things, approaching it long term, you come to an event like the workshop in Cartersville, the next day, you're not going to all of a sudden unlock all these funds and you're going to say, "Hey, I got a great return on my investment." It may take years, but the people you meet, the information you get, can be applied at the right time. If you think about that, this is a long-term journey, but a journey of getting the right things in your nonprofit to unleash the impact that you want to make. What do you think, Brian, when it comes to the live event? Because you mentioned karaoke, trivia. Trivia is so cool. I was at one and they were doing trivia. It's being in person. It's the fun and the excitement of relationships and just seeing what people are saying. And it's something special about being in person. So talk about like coming to the event from your perspective. What do you see that person that is in the audience, that's there, and they're trying to figure this thing out? What can they hope to gain by being there?
So Melanie can answer a little bit because she's been there. She's one of my sponsors actually for the trivia as well. So I'm a little bit biased because the trivia host is just amazing. That's me.
He is.
Call it like we call it there. No,
it's your own horn, Brian. You are.
Absolutely.
But what's really cool is the fact that what I see is the community coming together and having fun. That's really what it is. Mm-hmm. But it's also one of my other sponsors, and Glenda mentioned them already, Concert Financial. Richard Traby talks about this all the time too, that he comes and it's another great networking opportunity because you get to meet folks. I mean, Melanie can tell you, I bring people to her all the time that she needs to meet that she hasn't met them yet. And it's just really cool to see the people getting together, the little competition that goes on between the teams, and things like that. And then I try to do a little something different with the music. All my music has some kind of a hints with something with the answer most of the time. And when people catch on to that, it's like, ooh, what's he playing? What's he playing? So it's just a combination of all that. You're coming together, having fun. You're getting to meet other people that you might not get to know. You're also eating some great food at a good restaurant, and you're helping a great nonprofit because I give time before we actually start the trivia for the nonprofit to come up and speak and share about what they do for the folks who may not know that come every month.
Mm-hmm.
So
it doesn't feel like a fundraising event. I think that's where the magic is for Brian in those events. You don't feel like you're at a stuffy, oh, they're going to ask me for money kind of thing. It is absolutely fun. I bring my kids, we have a good time. And I think we all appreciate and understand how you want to make people feel comfortable. You want to make people feel like they've had value in being there. And the workshop, we kind of came at it from the same approach, right? We were looking at how do we design this in a way that this isn't we're just going to stand up here and lecture to you for, 45 minutes each and push this stuff out. And then just like, well, good luck. We really wanted to format this in a way that was interactive. And that, I'd love if people left and said they felt like it was fun, or, we've all kind of crafted our messages to have, to truly be more workshop than conference, right? We're not just, as I said, lecturing. We really want to create sort of little mini working sessions so that people can develop those relationships with people that are at their table or, throughout the room or us. And then also actually accomplish something while they're in the room. So they don't get back to their offices on, next Wednesday. And they're like, oh my gosh, I learned so much great stuff in there, but it's just so overwhelming. I don't know where to start. So we're really coming at the content in a way that's engaging, fun, and really realistic. What can someone actually do here that they can take back? And it's not going to be something that, 2 years from now when they're cleaning out their desk, they pull out their notes and think, oh yeah, I wanted to do that. I forgot about that. Actual things that they can really realistically implement as a result of work we've done together in the workshop.
So Pete, I'll tell you too that, so the tagline for Bees Charitable Stewardship and Resources is we put the fun in fundraising. But, we actually get to, for me, I try to get to know everybody that comes every single month. Even if it's a new person. I had a new couple come this past week that just randomly heard about the trivia, and they live right around the corner from St. Angelo's, and now they're going to be there every month because they had such a good time. And I'll also tell you, Melanie Lambert's boys are very competitive. They've actually won, and they come back and they're in serious mode.
And they figured out Brian's music trick. They're very well educated with music, and they figured it out, and they try to figure out what the hints are through the question. It's a lot of fun, and you meet new people every month. It's a lot of fun. And so we too, with the workshops, that it's something, that we can do on a regular basis and kind of create that community in itself through these workshops.
Ooh, that is so beautiful. I remember a couple of thoughts came back when y'all were sharing. I do live events, and this was like the first one. And Glenda spoke at this event, and I had a person come to me afterwards and say, I want to be like Glenda. And it was like, she was so, gave the great information, presented. I mean, it was beautiful. And it just kind of just talks about like, when you are out there and you're seeing things, you want to get that information. You want to be able to take what you can apply, but in person is the difference between night and day. Now we're doing this because it's logistically possible, right? Because we're in 3 locations all over the city. The event's coming up. So we realize that we got to get this information out. And I want to encourage our viewers, if you know some nonprofits, share this with them. Let them know. And Glenda, tell our viewers the time and the date, and then we'll have some more questions, and then I'll be respectful of y'all's time because y'all are busy. You're making it happen. So Glenda, share the time and the location.
Absolutely. So it's April 28th. And it's going to begin at 8:00. We have breakfast first, and then we move into the sessions. There'll be opportunity to visit with our sponsors and hear from them as well. And it's at the Cartersville-Bartow Chamber of Commerce. Okay. And so that address is on the website. They can get that information there when they go there to register. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're really excited to launch this series in Cartersville, and to have the venue of the chamber available to us to have this event. But yeah, the date is April 28th, And I think we're opening the doors at 7:45, and then come in and grab your breakfast and start networking and finding a seat. And then we dive right into our material and our time together.
Beautiful. Now I want you to do this because I always have the things where I'm pointing to stuff and it's backwards. Point to our QR code where they can register. I want to see if Glenda can another person.
Oh boy. Oh no, I'm going the wrong way. Oh, and then my finger gets lost with it's straight up there.
Okay, go to the other side of your, yes.
Keep on. So it is opposite. All right, so I had it right the first time.
Yes,
my finger's getting located in the screen, the green screen behind me, but yes.
Right in top of Okay, let me see if I can do it. Oh no, here we go. There we go. Point. Now scan that QR code.
There we go.
And then put it on your calendar and be there. So, all right. So we have a couple questions because I want to be respectful of your time because you're making it happen out there. So Melanie, I walk out of the event. What would a person say? What would they say? They walk out of the event. What do you think they're going to be saying to themselves?
That's a good question, Pete. I would love to envision that people that leave this workshop feel, at the risk of sounding cliche, but they feel empowered to do this. It's not as formidable as I think it can be, or it can appear. That we kind of break through the noise and help them really see clearly the paths to accomplish the things that they need to do. If they come in and they're like, I'm going to register for this workshop because my board is great. They all have really good intentions, but they don't actually have any sort of function other than coming to board meetings. I need them to be a working board, or I need them to be fundraising, or I need them to be at least on the same page with me. That they would clearly see how to accomplish that. As a side note, I also encourage people register for yourself and bring a board member. Right. I had the same mentor that shared the previous wisdom with me also told me when I worked in nonprofits, you're never a prophet in your own land. Right. So if you can bring your board member to hear this from us, and that's helpful for you to kind of, have someone else on your team while you're sharing this with the full board. There's a whole lot of value there. So it's absolutely appropriate to bring a board member or somebody else from another part of your nonprofit. But I hope they hear, Brian's presentation and they understand better, how to build those relationships in their community to accomplish sponsorship goals. It's not just this, oh gosh, there's all this money out there and I don't know how to get it. Same with grants. They can see a clear path for how to, my presentation next week will be really, truly less about how to secure the grants and more about how to prepare your nonprofit to be successful at grant writing. So hopefully in future sessions, we'll continue to move through the grant writing process. But, at this one, it's really, do you have all of your ducks in a row, really? And are you ready to be competitive? And if not, here's how to get there. So I hope that, the individuals that are able to come leave with that sense of, I now have a clearer picture of what this looks like. It's less intimidating to me. I feel like there's maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that I can, start accomplishing this week. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? I hope that they have a few of those bites ready and lined up to go when they've left our session, so they feel like they can actually do some work and make some progress towards those longer term overall goals.
Beautiful. I love that. So Brian, from your perspective, what would that person be saying as they leave the workshop that they're walking away with? What do you think they would be saying in your eyes?
So I would hope that they would take away what Melanie we've all talked about is the relationship, right? So not just to go ask somebody for money, right? You got to build the relationship. And I mean, I'll be honest, when I started this 4 years ago and people learned, actually, even still now, people learn about the trivia nights, I get nonprofits calling me, hey, can I be on your list? Well, it doesn't work that way. I need to know you first. I need to learn about you, not just what you're doing, because there's plenty of other people out there maybe doing the same thing you are, but I got to learn about you. So I hope they take away that they got to tell their story correctly, share their why, and build that relationship, and to treat everybody, whether they've given you $1 or $500,000, the same.
That is so beautiful. So, Glenda, I know you a little bit better than I know Melanie and Brian. Tell our viewers, like, in your eyes, like they're walking out of there, what do you think they would be saying, or what you would want them to be saying after they've attended the workshop?
Sure. Thank you. So first and foremost, I would hope that they would walk out and say, oh my goodness, I am so glad I came and really feel like there was value, that it was worth their time, and that they just appreciated the opportunity to be able to learn that information and share it with others and say, I'm ready for the next one. Like, sign me up. Can we sign today for the next session? Because I am so glad I came. Secondly, I want them, from a more content related standpoint, to think, now I understand that how important the relationship, and I'm going to stay on that same word that Melanie and Brian used, how important the relationship is between themselves as the founder or executive director and the board chair, and how the two of them are really leading the charge for the entire organization from a governance standpoint and from an operational standpoint. And when the two of them are in alignment and supportive of one another and understand how that relationship is so critical and what that looks like, then they can bring the clarity, the communication, the energy, the respect, the design to everyone else within the board and the organization, because the two of them have come to understand how critical it is that they work in partnership with one another. And what does that mean when people talk about the board staff partnership? Having it broken down very clearly for them, very simply, and very basically in a way that, okay, this is ABC 1, 2, 3, I get it, it's very clear, and we can go from there and build on it. So coming back to that relationship component.
That is so beautiful. I think this the theme of relationships, I don't know who said it, but they said the key to your, something about the key to life is your relationships, and it's like, or something along those lines. And it just put that real focus that people matter, relationships matter, being in community with people, coming to an event, meeting those people. You meet Brian, you meet Melanie, you meet Glenda, and you have that time to talk to them, have that, that connection, that actual connection with people that's so critical to how we are as human beings. So, Melanie, why don't you just tell from your view, that your eyes, and not your eyes, but tell our viewers where the event is and the time again, so we can make sure that they don't forget.
Yeah, so we're excited. It'll be a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, April 28th. Okay. As Glenda said, we're officially going to start at 8, but we open the doors at 7:45. Breakfast is included. We are big fans of, if you feed them, they will come. That is a fundraising tenet. So we'll have a delicious breakfast and then jump into the sessions. We'll have breakouts. We'll have, hands-on little workshop style during the presentations, and really ask people to come with the expectation that we want to hear from you too, right? We want to build relationships just as much as you do. Brian and Glenda are really great at this. If I don't know, if I can't help you, I probably know somebody in my network who does. And so we all benefit when we're expanding our networks like that. So this is as much value for us as it is for the people that are going to attend. So we're excited about it. Our sponsors will be there. And so you'll get a chance to interact with them as well. And then really hope that this is the start of kind of ongoing workshops for us here in the Cartersville and potentially in the Northwest Georgia area if we're able to look outside of Bartow County, but starting here in my town here in Cartersville. But welcome people from all over the area to come and join us, because there's so much value in learning what from the experiences that other people have. You may have some folks in the room that have kind of gone through the growing pains that you've already gone through before that you can learn from and, save yourself some extra steps. So we just, welcome nonprofits of all sizes to join us a week from tomorrow.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So Brian, why don't you close this out? And for those that did forget things, remind them about the event and tell us that one fun thing that they're going to come away with, that if they attend and they have a chance to be in that room, what can you share with our viewers?
Well, I think again, next Tuesday, April 28th, Cartersville Bartow Chamber. If you come, you get the chance to be picked on by me. That's the most fun you'll ever have. And you'll meet two incredible ladies who do some great work. I think what they'll take away is that everything can be fun. I mean, people think about, oh my gosh, board governance or grant writing. How fun is that? Well, let's learn how fun it can make, right? Again, you establish the relationship within those areas or the people you're working with, everything can be fun. So that's what you're going to take away.
Oh, that is so good. Well, I know you guys are making that impact in the community. So I want to allow you all the time to enjoy the rest of the week, get out there, and thanks for what you do to make nonprofits healthier, thriving, and making our community stronger. So I appreciate you being a guest on the podcast. Encourage our viewers, share this with your friends, because if they don't know about it, they can't be there. So make sure your friends know and just share this video so they can sign up, be there, and experience what's possible. So thank you all for being a guest. We appreciate you very much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. See you soon.